Kore Mwapenduka and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the show that keeps you up to date with the latest news in Africa and beyond. My name is Glenora Shipura, joined by Diana Master.
Mamukase.
Good morning. I know a little bit.
Tamuka Mamukase.
Tamuka Mamukase.
Tamuka, exactly. You see, so I just taught you a new greeting.
Now I know something new.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Mamukase Murie, Africa. Let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. An employee of the Namibian Professional Hunting Association drew attention to the hindrance caused by the absence of a prescribed minimum wage. Uganda's president has signed into law a tough new anti-gay legislation supported by many in the East African country. And Kenya will deepen its relations with Russia to increase trade volumes. We're also going to be getting news from Zambia with Mr. Mike Sichula. Stick around, we'll be back with our top stories right after this.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Let's get into your top stories. Calls for prescribed minimum wage in tourism industry amplified. The recent Hospitality Association of Namibia Congress, aimed at developing a roadmap for the country's tourism industry, delved into crucial issues affecting the sector. Among the topics discussed, Christine Maritz, an employee of the Namibian Professional Hunting Association, drew attention to the hindrance caused by the absence of a prescribed minimum wage in building a skilled tourism workforce. Maritz emphasized the need for data collection and the implementation of minimum wage policies. The problem, as discussed at the Han Congress, of the shortage of skilled labor calls for a more nuanced overview on what a skilled person in their field of employment can expect in terms of salary and benefits. She said one of the main consequences of the absence of a prescribed minimum wage, as highlighted during the Han Congress, is the misalignment between employer expectations and employer offerings. Now, skilled workers in the tourism sector facing uncertainty in terms of remuneration are more likely to seek opportunities in other fields where their passions and salary expectations are met, or even consider migrating to countries that offer higher salaries in their respective areas of expertise.
Now moving over, Nigeria's Tinubu sworn in as new president. Nigeria's new president Bola Tinubu vowed at his swearing in on Monday, the May 29th, to expand the economy by at least 6% a year, lift barriers due to investment, create jobs, and unify the exchange rate while also tackling rampant insecurity. Tinubu inherits a struggling economy with record debt, shortages of foreign exchange and fuel, a weak naira national currency, nearly 2 decades high inflation, skeletal power supplies, and falling oil production due to crude theft and underinvestment. Tinubu took his oath in an open-air ceremony in the capital's Eagle Square. Former President Buhari, who also attended the ceremony, departed to his rural home in northern Katsina State afterwards.
Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, on Monday stressed on accelerating the modernization of education to provide strong support for advancing the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation on all fronts. Xi made the statements while presiding over and addressing a group study session of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee. He said a thriving education makes a thriving country, while a powerful education makes a powerful country. Building China into a country with great strength in education is a strategic precursor to building China into a great modern socialist country in all respects, an important prop of achieving greater self-reliance and strength in science and technology, an effective way to promote common prosperity for all the people, and a fundamental project for advancing the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation on all fronts through Chinese modernization, said Xi. Now he urged efforts to develop education by acting on the people-centered philosophy, taking the initiative to advance the layout, respond to changes, and open up new prospects at full throttle.
Now Uganda's president signs into law a tough anti-gay legislation. Uganda's president has signed a tough new law anti-gay legislation supported by many in this East African country, but widely condemned by rights activists and others abroad. The version of the bill signed by President Yoweri Museveni doesn't criminalize those who identify as LGBTQ, a key concern for campaigners who condemned an earlier draft of the legislation as an egregious attack on human rights. But the new law still prescribes the death penalty for quote-unquote aggravated homosexuality, which is defined as cases of sexual relations involving people infected with HIV, as well as with minors and other categories of vulnerable people. A suspect convicted of attempted aggravated homosexuality can be imprisoned for up to 14 years, according to the legislation. Parliamentary Speaker Anita Among said in a statement that the president had answered the cries of the people in signing the bill. Museveni had returned the bill to the National Assembly in April, asking for changes that would differentiate between identifying as LGBTQ and actually engaging in homosexual acts. That angered some lawmakers, including some who feared the president would proceed to veto the bill amid international pressure. Lawmakers passed an amended version of the bill earlier in May. Homosexuality was already legal in Uganda under a colonial-era law criminalizing sexual activity against the order of nature. The punishment for that offense is life imprisonment.
Wrapping up our top stories, 20-year program transforms village environment. Villages' lives have been dramatically improved by the development of rural tourism under a government program that has transformed the infrastructure and environment of community in eastern China's Zhejiang province. Now set against a backdrop of beautiful natural scenery, the village of Mirong now features an artistic atmosphere filled with landscapes, decorations, sculptures, and pavilions. Let's take a look.
Stick around, we'll be back with news from Zambia with Mr. Mike Sichula.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Talk.
Is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis heel moontlik gaan byt.
The time has come for us to cross over to Zambia. Good morning, Mr. Mike Sichula.
Good morning, thank you.
Right, starting us off, we know that in the past week, the capital, Lusaka, was a hub of entertainment. Can we get a wrap-up of all the events that took place?
Yes, starting on Friday, the 25th Africa Freedom Day, Zambia graced the Barcelona Chipolopolo Legends, which was held at Heroes Stadium, and the turnout was overwhelming. The stadium was packed to the rafters. The same, equally, as you can see, that is Master Cajun from South Africa. He was also at the showgrounds together with Kofi Olomide from the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as the Ghetto Kids from Uganda. So all these events I'm talking about were jam-packed. Fans were treated some entertainment, and also for the showgrounds event, there was also some African cuisines, food of all kinds, and it was something that was impressive. Also, when you look at, there was also the football match on the Saturday between Forest Rangers and Muza FC. It was also jam-packed. Fans were turned away outside the stadium. So the activities in Lusaka for the hospitality industry was something that was extremely exciting, and also an eye-opener for Zambia with ability and capability to host international events within the same city in different locations, and their fans turning out in large numbers.
All right. Now moving on, has tensions between the Catholic Church and the governing UPND party been brought under control?
Absolutely nothing seems to be coming under control, because just yesterday the UPND Secretary General Butuka Imenda issued a strong worded statement against the leader of the Catholic Church in Zambia, Archbishop Akim Banda. So Mr. Butuka did label the Catholic bishop as a Lucifer in Zambia, as somebody who is causing confusion. As you can see, that is one of the statements that was pushed by one of the leaders of the UPND on social media, saying there's total confusion in the Catholic Church because of Ali Banda. Priests are not happy with him. So that's how far this tension is becoming. Another one you can see there on one of the popular social media pages in Zambia, where Akim Banda is a Lucifer of Zambia, according to UPND Secretary General. So you can imagine such worded statements coming from the leader of the governing party against the Catholic Church in Zambia. The background of this is that when President Hichilema held the media briefing, one of the bishops in Lusaka mocked President Hichilema for using graphs to explain the economic revival of Zambia, which, according to the Catholic priest, said people are not interested in graphs, they want to eat. So that's how this situation is being.
Well, it seems there's a lot going on. Now, China has declared interest to help Zambia and Tanzania commercialize the Tanzania-Zambia Railway Authority. Please give us the details.
Yes, according to Transport and Logistics Minister Frank Tayari, he says China has declared interest to help Zambia and Tanzania commercialize the Tanzania-Zambia Railways Authority. This is a project that was built by the Chinese way back before independence. So Zambia is using this rail line, and between the two countries, Tanzania and Zambia, they want to commercialize it so that it becomes more viable than it is. So Mr. Tayari says the infrastructure is still intact and only requires minor improvements to the locomotives and wagons. So he says the government, however, needs to do massive recapitalization at Zambia Railways and infrastructure overhaul. He revealed that the government is in talks with potential equity partners for the rail line.
Now, getting into your last story, there are reports that some sections of Western Zambia are experiencing increased cases of blindness caused by use of some herbs. Can you expand on the story?
Yes, the Zambia Flying Doctors Services is the one that discovered this situation in western part of Zambia, where because of lack of health facilities that are nearby, especially those that specialty treatment like eyes, most local people in those areas are resorting to use traditional herbs to treat eye infections and eye problems. So from their findings, when they touched down in Kalumbira district, they discovered that people are using herbs, and these herbs are leading to high cases of people going blind. So the doctors have recorded a lot of cases of blindness during their outreach in the district. And one of their lead consultants says he's concerned with the poor eye care services among members of the community in Karumbira district in northern western province of Zambia. So he says there's need to be, for the public to be sensitized on the need for seeking medical attention with relation to eye conditions. He also urged the community to stop using home remedies to treat medical conditions, as it could lead to permanent damage to their eyes. So it is something that is of concern, because most of these communities are living in places where health facilities are far away, and to get eye infection treatment is something that is a rare occurrence in such areas. Hence, people resorting to local herbs.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sichula, for bringing us the latest news on the ground in the real Africa, Zambia.
Thank you very much, Africa. Good morning.
Now, as we move on, talks involving 50 countries to reduce plastic pollution opened in Paris on Monday, May the 29th, with the hope of agreeing to a binding treaty that will be implemented before the end of 2024. Debate was likely to emerge between countries wanting to limit the production of more plastics and the petrochemical industry favoring recycling as a solution to plastic waste. Let's take a look at this video.
Talks involving 50 countries to reduce plastic pollution opened in Paris on Monday, the 29th of May, with the hope of agreeing to a binding treaty that will be implemented before the end of 2024. Debate was likely to emerge between countries wanting to limit the production of more plastics and the petrochemical industry favoring recycling as the solution to plastic waste. Ahead of the talks that started yesterday, which included NGOs and plastic industry representatives, many countries have said a goal of the treaty should be circularity, or keeping already produced plastic items in circulation as long as possible. In the report issued earlier this month, it outlined 3 key areas of action: reuse, recycling, and the reorientation of plastic packaging to alternative materials. This is what the United Nations Environment Programme Executive Director Inger Anderson had to say.
We gathered here in Paris because the linear plastic economy is gushing pollution galore, choking our ecosystems, warming the climate, damaging our health, and as ever with the triple planetary crisis, that crisis of climate change, the crisis of nature and biodiversity loss, and yes, the crisis of pollution and waste, people in the poorest nations and communities, they suffer the most.
You're still watching Africa Good Morning. Let's get into your economic news. Kenya signs trade pact with Russia. Kenya will deepen its relations with Russia to increase trade volumes. President William Ruto said trade between the two countries is still low despite the huge potential. He said the two countries will sign a trade pact that will give business the necessary impetus. The head of state spoke on Monday at State House, Nairobi, when he hosted Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The two leaders agreed on the need to reform the United Nations Security Council to make it more representative and more responsive to the needs of the 21st century.
Now, U.S. Fed expected to hike interest rates. The dollar held firm on Monday, supported by growing expectations of further rate hikes by the U.S. Federal Reserve, though news that a debt-ceiling deal had been finalized drew some of the safe haven bids away from the greenback. The rand was steady, trading at 19 rand and 62 cents to the dollar on Monday morning after hitting a record low of almost 19 rand and 83 cents per dollar last week. The U.S. dollar notched a fresh 6-month high of 140.91 yen in early Asia trade before reversing some of those gains to last trade at 140.39 yen.
Let's take a look at the economic indicators before we get into your sports news.
Good day, everyone. Time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news first. It's exciting 2 weeks coming up. It is the French Open that started at Roland Garros. First round games that started. It's the second major of the year. On the men's side of the draw, number 5 seed Stefanos Tsitsipas of Greece safely through to the next round, beating Jiri Vesely of Chechnya in 4 sets. Also, number 13 seed Hubert Hurkacz, he's through, beating David Goffin in 5 sets, and also Karen Khachanov of Russia also through to the next round. He's the number 11th seed. Then Sebastian Korda of the United States of America, he beat his countryman Michael McDonald, also from the USA, by 6-4, 7-5 and 6-4 to advance to the second round. Sebastian Korda, coming from a big sporting family, his father Peter Korda also played professional tennis, and his 2 sisters plays professional golf on the PGA Tour. That is Nelly and Jessica Korda. On to the women's side of the draw, it is Jessica Pegula, the number 3 seed of the USA, beat Diane Collins by 6-4 and 6-2. Then also it's Leila Fernandez of Canada. She was a US Open finalist a few years ago. She beat Magda Linette by 6-3, 1-6 and 6-3. Then there's a higher seed, a top 10 seed that's out in the first round. That is number 8, Maria Sakkari of Greece. She lost to Karolina Muskova, and she's from Chechnya. The score there was 7-6 and 7-5. And now for cycling news, it is the Giro d'Italia that was concluded, and it was Primož Roglič of Slovenia. He's the winner, a great cycling event for him. It's the first time that he's won the cycling tour, and obviously also the first time that a cyclist from Slovenia won the Giro d'Italia. He finished in the bunts in the 21st stage and the last stage. It was Mark Cavendish that won that stage, the 21st stage. It was over 126 kilometers. It was the 17th win for Mark Cavendish at the Giro d'Italia. That was a stage win, so he's one of the best sprinters in world cycling. And continuing international sports news with golf news, quite a few tournaments that was concluded, and on the men's PGA side, it was Emiliano Grillo of Argentina that won the Charles Schwab tournament. That was in a playoff against Adrian Schenk of the USA. Then also on the DP World Tour, that is the European Men's Tour, it was the KLM Open in the Netherlands, and there it was Pablo Larrazabal that won on a score of -13. He finished with a round of 69. A good tournament there for Dion Germeshuis of South Africa, -10 in 3rd position. Then on the women's side, on the women's PGA, it was the Bank of Hope that was a match play tournament played in Las Vegas. The winner there was Pajari Anarakakaru. She is from Thailand, and she beat Ayeka Furia of Japan by 3-1 in the final to win that tournament. And on the men's LIV Tour, that is the LIV Golf Initiative, the Breakaway Golf League, it was Harold Varner III that won on a -12, and on -11, just 1 stroke back, it is Brendan Grace of South Africa.
This is Still Africa. Good morning. If you're just joining us, here are the news highlights. Calls for prescribed minimum wage in tourism industry amplified. Nigeria's Tinubu sworn in as new president. She stresses on building country with strength in education. Kenya signs trade pact with Russia.
And with that, we've come to the end of our broadcast. Don't forget, you can catch Africa Good Morning tomorrow, same time, same place. I am Glen Rashipura.
And I am Diana Master, and we wish you a lovely Tuesday ahead.